Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Dalarna. This is the super destroyer in the European line after Holland. And I wonder why I don't see this ship very often. Some super ships, very popular whenever you get up tiered against that tier. Dalarna, I don't see particularly often. And I think it's because it's not the biggest upgrade over Holland. You get a little bit more HP, you get a whole nother turret, but longer reloads. The DPM on these main guns isn't too much higher. The strength here is going to lie in its versatility. This ship still has great DPM, gets a heal, and of course has some pretty incredible torpedoes. You have faster reloading torps than Holland, and you also gain an alternate set of torps. These are closer range, they are a little bit slower, but they do way more damage. You get 17,500 alpha damage out of these alt torps, and that is a massive upgrade, well over 50%, because the main torps only do 10,700 that we're used to on Holland. So the versatility here is really, really nice. The HE DPM, it feels a little bad to have worse DPM though than Smaland. I think that's where some of the lack of an upgrade here comes from, as I have a Smaland, which I can play. Not a lot of people have that ship though these days, so it is still a very nice upgrade, 225,000 HE DPM, up from 210,000. And that doesn't tell the full story here, because the firing angles on these main guns are incredible, really helping you to get more of your DPM online more often, also allowing us to be a lot more angled, therefore taking a lot less damage. For a lot of these super ships, it's very obvious the upgrades. Like Annapolis is the same reload as a Des Moines, it just gets a whole nother turret and a burst fire, better armor. This ship, Dalarna, it's a little bit less obvious, but still definitely an upgrade. No smoke on this destroyer, you're probably used to that by now if you're playing this European destroyer line, and that allows us to control a lot of maps with spotting. You're not sitting in a smoke, so you always have to be spotting for your team. I really felt like Dalarna was an excellent hybrid DD, well able to torp when the advantage called for it. We have a great flank here. We have a map where we were able to get some of those torps out, especially those 8-kilometer torps. Notably, radar's pretty difficult to deal with. But a lot of torp boats, they run into a problem where the enemy gunboats zone them out. And Dalarna is not going to have that as too much of a problem. We get surprised, ambushed by this Alvaro. Fortunately, enough HP to survive his burst fire, and the guns are enough to take him out. These firing angles are absolutely massive. That 20-degree forward and stern firing angle are excellent. Now, the Cerberus here has us a little trapped on this island. I was waiting to see which side he would come out from. We can barely tank that salvo, thanks to having a heal, getting us enough HP to tank it, and then we send out the high-damaging torpedoes. They're not quite as quick, as already mentioned, but I don't think we get this kind of damage output, and we're in a big problem here if we don't kill this Cerberus. We probably don't get that kind of damage on the Cerberus if we're not using the alt torpedoes. It's a really nice advantage. Also here at the end, into this Tempesta, we can send out those alternate torpedoes. That's really the thing here if you want to play the Dalarna and have it feel like a meaningful upgrade over Holland. You have to be making use of these alt torps, these 8-kilometer torpedoes, and also make use of those improved firing angles. Otherwise, the upgrades aren't that much over something like Holland, and yet I still had a pretty good time in this ship overall. I will say it feels a little bad to not have any like improved shell velocity. We're going to take a look at the Joshua Humphreys soon. That's the upgraded super destroyer over gearing. And one of the main upgrades there on that ship is that not only does it get a lot more DPM than the gearing does, up at 240,000, more than Dalarna even, it also gets improved shell velocity. It's a big deal, allowing you to farm a lot more easily out of that ship and gain a burst fire. Though the torps on that one are the same. Perhaps we could look at it in that way. The guns in Dalarna are slightly different, little upgrade here and there. Gun angles, a little slightly more DPM, but not huge changes. But you get a massive upgrade to the close range torpedo power. If you're interested in that full torp build, this match is certainly the one where I played that. I like to have a lot more guns, allowing me to take those destroyer engagements to win them, and then I can just freely use my torpedoes. In this map, it worked out that we get a lot of free torp launches, a lot of spotting for our team as well, so a lot of battle impact in that way. But I do value those guns. Now, Smaland being up at 247,000 HE DPM, It's kind of insane. That ship, I guess understandably, being removed from most sail makes sense in how strong it is. That much more than Dalarna, down at 225,000. But it's still very good, okay? Don't get me wrong. I just am a little hard on Dalarna, perhaps because there's a pretty broken tier 10 ship that you also find that is in this European line. We're still easily able to take on the vast majority of gunboats, and even the ones that do outgun us, like Smaland, Vampire, Humphreys, Marceau, things like that, well, we get a heal. Some of those other ones do get heals as well, but fortunately, we have these firing angles. I really have to emphasize this. The ability to angle your ship 20 degrees makes for such a small target. It's very, very difficult to actually land consistent salvos when Dalarna is angled. Though you have to make sure you're staying angled and not just sitting flat broadside, as I sometimes was doing throughout these videos. Playing aggressive, trying to take on this poor Fletcher, who, let's be honest, tier 9s have no business fighting a lot of these super ships. They don't have the HP, they don't have the damage. It's not a very fair fight, but we do need to take them out if we are to farm this Vermont at all. For this battle, I've now swapped over to a fully built gun build, and this is sacrificing some concealment even. Very nice to get down to 6.1 kilometer detect. Notable advantage there. A lot of the very powerful DPM gunboats can't get down to that hybrid destroyer range, that 6 kilometer range that I usually find for hybrid DDs, where there are some torps, some guns. So a very powerful tool of that. Yet, we can forego concealment and go max gun build, fearless brawler, everything. And the guns do perform extremely well in these situations. A lot of fires coming out of these guns as well. It's still the same shells, same HE shell damage, fire chance, all of that we get on Holland, but we do get a few more shells out, so just over 10 fires per minute means for some nice consistent follow-up fires after this Vermont does damage control. Notably, no 360 turrets here, but they do turn fast enough. Here, I wanted to make sure we're staying angled. Anytime that the enemy is pushing behind our ship, or we have to turn more broadside to fire our guns, well, that's foregoing an advantage. Here, I'm showing quite a lot of broadside, and now we're going to use our engine boost to accelerate in reverse a little quicker. We eat one shell, but that's not so bad. We're still able to fire all of our guns, even at these extreme angles. It took a lot for me to get used to that, by the way. Getting used to being able to fire my guns at these angles. No, not many ships do have that as an option. Notably, Holland and the rest of this line can do these YOLO drive-bys, but not as easily. This Yamato would be low enough that it would work, but again, having these alt torps is just so nice. They come back up so ridiculously quickly too. In this one, a full gun build, and yet we're still getting value out of the torps. Sure, in this case, we are getting that YOLO torp off, but having that very, very good 90-second base reload means that they're basically always up whenever I'm wanting to use them. Still 70 knots on these close-range torpedoes as well, so trying to make use of those most of the time. It doesn't get a legendary mod though. Holland legendary mod, notably not helping your DPM. It's in the 6th upgrade slot. But what it does do is buff your heals massively. It allows Holland to play a lot more aggressively, a lot more tanky, and if you're used to that playstyle, well, Dalarna with its firing angles helps it, but it doesn't buff the heals nearly that much. We only have a couple hundred more HP as well compared to the Holland, so it's not like we're getting a massive upgrade. It's just over 1,000 HP there. So the legendary mod Holland total with its heals will have more HP than a Dalarna will, and Dalarna is a little bit bigger target. It's interesting that some of these super ships are just such obvious massive upgrades, things like Condi, things like Annapolis, things like Satsuma, like huge upgrades along just in the base ship, alongside some absolutely incredible F keys combat instructions that give them a burst fire, an alternate fire, a insane accuracy salvo, 35% on Satsuma, and then yet other super ships like Dalarna, they have some very subtle upgrades, and I think that's probably why I don't see Dalarna as much. It's still solid, farming at these longer ranges, holding down a flank, we can do it. It's a little bit hard to lead these guns at times, but we can still manage it. But it's not that overwhelming, massive upgrade. But perhaps I am comparing it to the cruisers, the best versions of super cruisers and super battleships. The destroyers, it doesn't seem like get terribly many massive upgrades. You know, Yamagiri, we already talked about Humphreys, but Zorki I looked at recently, Kunming as well. These destroyers don't get a ton of upgrades over their tier 10 counterparts. They're there, but no, it's not nearly as massive or overwhelming. And yet they can still perform very well. Perhaps that's down to the battle impact that destroyers have and their concealment ranges, allowing them to get into very advantageous positions, dictate a lot of the engagements, and that is enough to tip the scales to have a super ship level destroyer. Perhaps that is enough. I wanted to catch the flanks, the broadsides here, using the long-range torpedoes whenever we are dealing with some kiting ships, as well as radars locking us out. Not always using the 8-kilometer torpedoes, in this case trying to predict where Sicilia is going in his smokescreen. And the torps are fast and are quite long range. I'm really glad they didn't just go with these 8-kilometer torpedoes, still having access to regular Holland torps with, by the way, still a faster reload than what Holland does have, is extremely nice. Meanwhile, we're farming down the Yiming with the HE, lighting a lot of fires. It's versatile. This is definitely the hybrid DD, one of the hybrid super destroyers. The guns aren't quite what I would have hoped that they would be. Perhaps also down to what this ship was in testing. Now, I know we shouldn't talk all the time about what a ship is like in testing, but if I remember right, it had 300,000 or more HE DPM in testing. They gave it an extra turret of Holland and did not change the reload. I'm sure that was crazy enough that it deserved the nerf. It's still a very good destroyer in these engagements, but can't help but wonder what that one would have looked like, perhaps. I get caught broadside onto the Yiming here. Again, reinforcing. Gotta keep this ship angled at these ranges. I was also running a range mod build here, and I gotta say, given the shell velocity, it didn't feel all that comfortable. I wonder if the best way to build it is just gonna be go full concealment, try and buff the torps some, and your main guns some too. Don't go all in on the main guns, as it's a lot to try and actually hit targets at these 13-kilometer ranges, considering the shell velocity here. This also seems to go against one of our advantages, is that we still have very high damage output from these main guns while retaining that 6.1-kilometer detect, best detect. That is a very scary ship to pop up so close to even your tier 10 hybrid destroyer, or even any of the full torp boats. Dalarna is an absolute menace in those situations. It also means that trying to farm from these longer ranges, notice not getting a lot of opportunities to use these alternate torpedoes as well, which is one of the main damage massive upgrades that we see over the tier 10 Holland. And I'm not getting as much value out of that. So it's a bit of a strange one. It's not going to be this long-range damage dealer. It's not going to be like a smaland experience for you. It's close in HE DPM, but smaland, of course, gets that radar. It also gets the upgraded engine boost. Sure, it lasts only 60 seconds, but you get a 30% engine boost on smaland. That is incredible for dealing with a lot of pressure at closer ranges. Here it is just a standard 8% engine boost. It lasts 2 minutes long, which is nice, but I would certainly prefer that much more powerful engine boost that doesn't last quite as long. Now, I haven't talked about it yet, but the AA on Dalarna is excellent. Much like Holland, these non-smoke DDs really struggle to carrier spotting in particular. It's not the case here. They've given these destroyers enough AA that you don't really have to worry about that too much. D-fire here as well to really deal with the problem squadrons, whatever that happens to be in the carrier that you're facing. That is really nice. It really enables this ship to play that flanking destroyer role, hybrid DD role on any map that you get, no matter the matchmaker. And that is a very nice benefit that this Holland line and Dalarna continues, that notably a lot of the other destroyers really can't do. Whenever there's a carrier on your flank, constantly sending planes over, even if he's not going after you, you really have to stay close with your team, as that's really the main defense, right? Not so here, and that is a big advantage that I do need to mention. Now, for that build, as mentioned, there are 2 different ways you can go about it. Well, 3, I suppose. You can try to split the difference between these torpedoes and the main guns, go for a very hybrid build. You can always just go max DPM, max gun build, or max torp build. I personally prefer the gun build, as you guys know, so I go main armaments in both of these. However, I do think it's totally a great build to run the torp tubes mod, as that is the major upgrade on this ship, getting these alt torps that do so much more damage. I just really like how much space gets opened up when I can confidently take that destroyer engagement with the full gun build. The commander skills, I'd pretty much always start with these skills. We have 5 points left over. Notably, you could try to buff your main guns more. You could even forego concealment for Fearless Brawler and then go like this. That's what I was running with the full gun build. I gave up that concealment, go to like 6.8 kilometer detect, which isn't too bad to work with, and gain that full build. I think I even gave up either Superintendent or Survivability Expert to get even main gun range. That was the range build game. I don't recommend that one. Range is definitely not required here. It's hard enough to hit shells. 11.2 feels like close range, but when you're really picky about the engagements you are taking, you can burst out a lot of damage quickly and then go rely on the torpedoes. I found that to be very solid to deal with. Torp build, totally a great option still. I mean, we still have great DPM here, even without main gun reload. 225,000 HE DPM is still very good. The vast majority of the hybrid boats, this is more DPM than Gearing gets, Daring gets base without fully building its guns yet. Holland, obviously, even things like certainly Grozovoy, any of the Soviet destroyers, though they have a lot better shell velocity. I want to take fights at range more. So many different ways to go for it. I do think you're probably going to go with the Torp build most of the time, given that is the major upgrade here. If you want to go full guns, you might, again, consider just playing Holland with its legendary mod, perhaps. Or if you're fortunate enough to have it, you could always just play smaland, which is just a better version of the full gun build, as you gain a radar and have a better engine boost for those bursty engagements. Still decent DPM though, but down to a sub 70-second reload on torps that do 17,500 alpha damage. Sure, it's an 8-kilometer range only, but that is a lot of power, and something that Dalarna can do quite well. Playing on the flanks, trying to push the DDs with its decent gun power, and then just using the massive torp upgrade to deal with any capital ships like that on this flank. Very solid DD, but I kind of get why I don't see it quite so often. Kind of challenging my biases, though. It looks like outside of Yamagiri, Dalarna, Kuming, and Humphreys all get played a similar amount, which is a massive drop-off, actually, than Yamagiri. Perhaps that's because these DDs don't feel like such massive upgrades. People just love Shima as well. Suppose that makes sense. And a lot of the other super ships just have massive upgrades when we look at the other classes. But let me know in the comments down below what you think about Dalarna and its playwright and how it performs as a super ship. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.